presentation here is lightweight balconies, which obviously you've seen through the VBA presentation, main area of focus. What we're going to focus on here, do they meet DTS or do they require a performance solution? Okay, we're going to clearly break down how this is situated. So what we're going to cover, Cladding Safety Victoria's alarming findings in relation to defective balconies. I'm not going to go over it too much because obviously you've heard from Bay with the VB8. Lightweight balconies, do they require DTS or performance solution? We're going to have a look at two of the main manufacturers' installation guides, being CSR, Cementel Constructor Floor or James Hardie. Not designed to hang them out to dry, but more to educate you on what they're telling us and how we achieve compliance, but also how their guides impact the design of our balcony. Compatibility chains and product warranty. So we've heard today about the importance of that, and we are in a situation in the industry where we have product to product design and warranty issues. Okay, so we'll have a look at that. Waterproofing inspection process. I've got a couple of videos, so hopefully they work. Liam up the back there said we might have to play around with them a little bit. We're going to show you, so this is quite timely with the inspection process. Okay, we have seen, building inspectors are the latest hot topic in the construction industry. Everyone's an inspector now. Everyone's out there doing building inspections. It is a flooded market, and so I had a building inspector come out to a bathroom that I designed, who's a qualified electrician, and tell me that my waterproofing design was non-compliant. So quite interesting, and really hard to communicate with the homeowner in that scenario, okay, because who do they believe? So we're going to have a look at a post-membrane inspection. Property here in Brighton, we have a balcony that's been rectified approximately 4 years ago, and we've got some extensive issues already. So there's a $35,000 rectification, and we've got a couple of key issues here that are very evident. So one being extensive efflorescence. Now this may not be caused from the balcony rectification, but the homeowner has expressed that water is coming from up above, migrating its way under this door subseal, got efflorescence in. Can everyone hear the volume? Yep. I have been seeing these waste outlet types in a couple of balconies, and I don't believe they allow subtile migration or release into the outlet, and so we can see some ponding water sitting on the surface of the balcony. The span of the balcony is approximately 6 metres long, and we have no expansion joint identified. Also we can see the tile joints here are quite narrow, being 1.5 to 2 mil, so that would be inadequate for an external balcony. Got the same type of waste outlet there. I believe the balcony has structural fall, which under the installation guide for structure sheet flooring, one, you can't have a sump drain, and two, you cannot directional fall to the outlet. It must be a front edge runoff. I've got ponding water here, which would be classified as a defect, some efflorescence. Dark tiles also not recommended on a balcony. On a positive note, we've got a front fixed balustrade method, and so that minimises the risk of penetrating through the membrane. Could probably also, you can see we've got some movement happening there under this hob, some cracking in the tile joint there. These tiles look like they're starting to delaminate off the hob itself as well. So got this angle which is starting to debond off the tile adhesive, break it down. So fortunately in this scenario we might to repair the balcony once again. So, 4 months old, there's a couple of things I did miss on the video. There's no overflow provision. Okay, when you saw the start of the video, I had a look under the subsill to see if we had a membrane upturn, because the inside level to the outside level is the same height. The builder actually told the client to ring me to assess the rest of the building. 5 townhouses in Brighton, all 5 to 8 mil probably worth, 12 to 14 years old, and it is a schmozzle. Rooftop to basement car park, defective areas everywhere. And I walked out onto his balcony and said, who did your balcony? Oh, the guy who recommended you to come out here. And I said, well, your balcony's going to have to be replaced. And he goes, I just spent 35 grand on it. Nightmare of a scenario. So anyway, the purpose of it is this is everywhere. Okay, as an industry, we are so under-knowledged. We can't just rely on one part of the industry, even from a legislative standpoint or even what we're trying to do here to fix the problem. We all need to fix it together. That's why we do what we do. Okay, is to provide awareness and then develop a community to go, you know what, where do we need to make some noise and what changes do we need to do? Leaky building syndrome. Now this picture's from Florida, but from what I'm hearing, there's a potential it could happen here. So back in 2017, Bill Randolph, scale of the problem is unknown in Australia because we didn't have any data or limited data or it was hidden data. Dr. Nicole Johnson, who's been good enough to fly down from Queensland to attend today. I caught up with Nicole several years ago when I started my journey to become a waterproofing consultant. I think you've got a crisis in this country. I don't want to downplay the issue in relation to combustible cladding, but I think water penetration issues in buildings are much, much bigger. That's all we're hearing now. Yeah? And it is. It's a nightmare. The thing that we can't measure is the psychological impact it has. Okay? It ruins people's lives on the daily. So I've got to deal with clients, you know, get positive outcomes sometimes. Generally, if I write a defect report for a builder, they hate me at the start, but then at the end when we rectify it, they're like, I've learnt so much, I'll never make the mistake again. New Zealand, back in 2011, waterproofing is the largest man-made fiasco in our history, with costs likely to be 22 billion. Had Chris Withers over from the Waterproof Membranes Association last year. $600 million per annum the homeowners are having to pay to fix internal waterproofing issues in New Zealand because there's a fall short in the insurance premium. How much is that going to cost us if we're 7 times bigger as an economy? So the cladding rectification program, 270 buildings, nearly 1/3 identified as having balcony defects, including leaking balconies, balustrades, and terraces causing structural damage. So we're going to break this down into how we need to design our balconies and what are the governing documents for us to do that. As we saw with Bayer's presentation, 52% water ingress, insufficient or no waterproofing. I'm surprised that figure's actually 19%. I would have thought it would be a lot higher. And the drama that we've got, most of these buildings are over 10 years old, so how do you lap onto a membrane that's probably expired in its warranty? You can't. Who's providing warranty on that? So we're ripping them up and starting again. 550, over 550 defective balconies identified have been left with issues unaddressed by the owner. Balcony tends to be more prevalent of high concern on buildings where timber structural beams are screwed into timber frames. Nevertheless, concrete slab balconies have also noticeable issues related to the lack of waterproof membranes. The findings, so since 2018, I initially studied the building audit report from Deakin Uni, from Dr. Nicole, in conjunction with Griffith, I believe, off the top of my head. Thank you. And it's not actually hard to find out that this problem has been going on for a long, long time around the globe. The outlines in this paper are consistent with the experience of other jurisdictions, both interstate and internationally. Everyone's grappling with the building defect problem and its social and economic impacts on the residents. And so we're going to hear about this today. We are bringing in 2 homeowners who have had a nightmare through probably what they thought was going to be purchasing the great Australian dream. Nightmare. Hawthorn, ceiling collapsed from a balcony, collapsed twice in 2 years. Was fixed, collapsed, fixed again, then collapsed, and they called me out. Here's the timber framework inside the building. We can see combustible cladding here, and like Bayer mentioned before, I could just put my hand in there and pull the studs out of the wall. I don't even know how the building's standing. I'm not a structural engineer, but I don't think we need to be to see that that's, maybe it's not load bearing, but if that's on the outside of the building, where is that moisture going? Travancore, Class 2, so both of these buildings, Class 2 buildings. Bottom story of an 8-story apartment building, that is the joists in holding up the balcony. Yellow tongue flooring. And this is the LVL from one of the ladies who will be coming up on stage later. It's not, I don't think it's directly from her property, but it's in the complex. And that's the state of it. I went to that building. I saw a couple of her posts on LinkedIn, and I was doing some inspections in Mornington, and this is in Frankston, and I was like, oh, can I come and look? I've never seen anything like it in my life. It's unbelievable. And a lot of the residents there, or not a lot of them, a few of them are pensioners, used all of the money they got left to secure their retirement, and they pretty much can't even live in their own houses or fix them. California, okay, built balcony collapse in 2015, 6 Irish students were killed. The building was built in 2006 at that point in time, so it was 10 years old. Yeah? What we are doing is contributing to this. We forget about the why because we're too caught up in the how. Bang, I've got to get in, I've got to get out, doesn't matter. We'll move on to the next job. She'll be right, mate. Not right. We've all been through this a couple of times. We know there's 2 genuine options to achieve compliance. A performance solution are deemed to satisfy. Oh, that's gone out of whack. A performance solution is unique for each situation. These solutions are often flexible in achieving the outcomes and encouraging innovative design and technology use. Yes, they are. And I think we're going to see more and more performance solutions used in the industry because our standards, they're not where they need to be. They don't give us prescriptive details. They are roughly 10 years behind where the industry is at. DTS is designed to give us a set recipe of what, when and how to do something. So let's relay that. 4654 Part 2. We learnt from Eric, Part 1 is the materials testing standard. Part 2 is the design and installation. Set recipe of how to do something. The only thing that I can really find out of the external standard that would help give us guidance on a lightweight balcony is the listing of cellulose cement products, which is our structural sheet flooring. Okay? Tested to 2908. When you look at these installation guides, and I encourage you to do so, they mention that it complies with 2908.2. Okay, we're still seeing particle board popping up from previous generations of work. And the main reason, and people aren't aware of, the main reason why you can't use particle board is because we get a lot of condensation forming on the underside of the substrate. So it's got to be resistant to moisture. Manufacturer's installation guides. The presentation is not designed to hang them out to dry. I want to clearly point that out. They tell us what we can and can't do, and we don't listen to what they tell us. And furthermore, one of the issues is we've got third-party resellers, and the staff wouldn't have the faintest idea about how these products have to be installed. Yeah? You go into wherever, your timber supplier, wherever, yeah, I've got a good discount on the products. No idea on how they are to be installed and the impacts that it has. And that's not only for structural sheet flooring, it's for a majority of products. So let's have a look at what they tell us. Mortar bed with separating layer. First of all, I am not an advocate for having a mortar bed exposed to moisture. If it's got tiles directly on the top, that's exposed to moisture. Yeah? Drain to edge of deck or sump. And then it tells us about the layout, staggered or aligned sheet layout. Then we have a look down, tiles with liquid membrane. They only mention liquid membranes. Once again, I only use sheet membranes on lightweight balconies, okay, unless it's quite small. That's my personal preference. Drain to edge of deck, aligned sheet layout only, and then trafficable membrane. I've never really seen structural sheet flooring installed and then we've got a trafficable membrane over the top. I probably wouldn't spec that myself. Drain to edge of deck, aligned sheet only. So they used to have a different drawing than this, and then I downloaded the guide again just during the week because I've got another balcony design that I'm doing for someone in Mornington, and they've changed the picture. It's not as clear now. They don't really give you clear guidance. It's a bit of choose your own adventure. So ensure you've got the latest version of the installation guide. That's with all of the products. Whether it's membrane, tile adhesive, substrate, whatever you're using, doesn't matter. So James Hardie, square sheet layout, tile direct, square pattern. Shows you where the expansion joint is, pretty much at each butt joint of the lightweight structural sheet flooring. That's it, 2700. So if you've got the tiling system, you've got the membrane system, 2700, expansion joint needs to be marked for the waterproofer, then the waterproofer needs to mark it for the tiler. Can't bridge the gap. So when you're designing this, you're probably picking a tile that's going to fit in with the requirements of your expansion joint detailing. Mortar bed, staggered, maximum 4100s for your expansion joints. 3958's maximum 4.5 metres, but you've got to follow the substrate that you're on, okay? Tiling direct to a staggered sheet layout without a mortar bed screed is not recommended. So if you've got no warranty on your substrate, do you think you're going to have warranty on the membrane? Or the tile adhesive? Or the tiles? Or everything over the top? So we're getting an issue with product to product compatibility. Drainage. There's no wording in James Hardie's installation guide. This is the wording. It's a picture. Unlike the picture that we see in the standards that's typical, this is normative. No central outlet. You cannot have a central outlet in a James Hardie substrate install. Then they refer you to have a tile drip edge or an aluminium angled drip edge, okay? To deflect the water away from the edge of the building, okay? So it puts you out of the damp and weatherproofing clause where, you know, if we get that water dripping onto the building and it changes the overall look and feel, causes damage. So aluminium, they want us to use aluminium. They've now excluded it from 3740 because of the potential of oxidisation. I've got to be honest, I've never seen oxidisation in an internal wet area, never. But they've removed it. That has implications on what type of material we need to use for our internal water stop angle. So here's a drip edge. There is a weep hole up there. You can't actually see it. So it's designed to sit flush with the floor surface. A membrane would lap onto here. Our tiles would also be there. And then you would get low level moisture evaporation from under the surface. It's the moisture that's under the surface that causes all of the damage. So they refer you to an edge gutter detail, and typically they refer us to 2.8.2.3 from 4654. And then if we look closely, it actually shows the drip edge rebaited into the substrate. So the detail they direct us to, we cannot even do because they do not allow you to recess the substrate at all for James Hardie. So what do? I've got some answers, but I'm probably not going to say them right here, right now. Instantaneously, can anyone guess what type of designed balcony you would not be able to have with this information? There's no wrong answers here. Anyone? Put your hand up, have a crack. A parapet design? If you cannot have a central outlet, and you've got a parapet design balcony, where's the water going to go if you're using James Hardie if you can't have a sump drain? Nowhere. Installation guide is limiting our design. Cement towel. Free edge runoff. We ran a course through the AIW on balconies earlier in the year, and one of the people who were on the committee as well, George Nicholas from Construction Advisor up in New South Wales, he used to work for CSR. So he's got an in with them. Took a while, but we got a detail about where they allow you to rebate the substrate now. Never used to, but they do now. Their suggested detailing for a strip drain, not a leak control flange, just a strip drain. Rebate sheeting, 50mm wide, 2mm maximum depth. We need that 50mm wide. That's generally what the manufacturers would tell us they want to lap for the waterproof membrane. Provide additional floor joist, place fixing screw at adjoining floor joist with full depth, and we're probably going to have to undertake the performance solution path because we don't have clear guidance for this out of 4654. Not probably, we are. I actually don't know of any lightweight balcony that gets written up with a performance solution. They're designed incorrectly and then they're installed. So really, the builder's got no warranty. The homeowner's putting a heavy reliance on the builder to understand this, and most of them don't know. Balustrade detailing, CSR cement towel, allow you to fix the metal stirrup on top of the substrate. This metal post stirrup, I don't see many metal timber posts being fixed to a stirrup on a lightweight balcony like that. They've copied the detail out of 4654 Part 2, which is a typical detail. Okay, so not mandatory. Let's have a look at what 4654 Part 2 says. Changes in direction or upstand. So upstands, pier or post shall be treated as post and post supports and shall be detailed in accordance with 2.8.4. So let's have a look at that. 2.8.4 penetrations. Any fixings that penetrate the membrane shall be sealed. The sealant shall be compatible with the surface material. So we've got to make sure we've got that compatibility chain. Typical details of metal post supports are shown in figure 2.12. Okay, once again, we're reverted back to that. Never really see that on a lightweight balcony. For posts penetrating through the deck, see clause 2.84. And so it's this. We're just stuck in a bubble. Where do we go with this? James Hardie, they give us guidance. Balustrade upright supports must be fixed to the structural frame of the balcony, not to the top surface, because the composition of the board breaks down with the difference in movement from wind. You've got a balustrade, you've got a glass balustrade that's hooked up to that, so we've got a whole heap of movement, deflection, etc. So my brother, who's out at the stand there, we did this, I designed this with him and we did the detail together. This is how the upstands are to be installed using James Hardy. Couldn't actually get a detail on how to detail. I got a verbal one from another mate who's in here who's a manufacturer, but not in writing. So I had to put a heavy trust in the ability to do it. This balcony is the initial balcony that we trialled the quality assurance software out there that I've developed. So I'm like, if it's going to work, well, let's have a crack on a proper job. That's highly critical, that had been stopped by the building surveyor because they realised the plan was non-compliant. So that's how we detailed it, triple detail requirement. So sealant in there, then we used a cartridge applied polyurea, and then we used the Ardex under-tile system. What most people don't know as well, when you cut the sheet, you must prime it with kill rust. That's what they specifically say on the installation guide. You could probably use an epoxy primer as well, okay? But they specifically say kill rust. And I'll show you why we used kill rust. So, looking at this balcony, would it be a DTS or a performance solution? I'd love to hear people's answers. And yet, I don't know of any that get drawn up for balconies. People wonder why they fail, because we can't line up the linkage. James Hardy, no parapet. CSR, there's a potential, but you need to engage the design link team. These are the listed manufacturers in the installation guides, which is outdated, okay? And I'm sure they probably haven't been contacted again to give an update. And if you are on this list, then you know what update you need to give them. And you're going to own the market, because none of these manufacturers on here could give us a specific balustrade upstand detail. So we've got a substrate, then we've got a membrane, then we've got a stainless steel upright, we've got product to product compatibility. Where does the warranty fall? How do we line it up? 3740, first time we've seen a compatibility chain. Yep, it's an internal waterproofing standard. Let's hope we start to see this in our external standard, which is being upgraded as we speak. I love what Eric talked about, where they've got, specific, the ISO standards, was it, where it's testing product to product compatibility. For me, I'm one product, one manufacturer. I'm using the same waterproof membrane, I'm using the same tile adhesive. Because where does the warranty lie if it fails? James Hardy, here's their recommended products. They allow you to use all of these ancillary items, but if it fails, no warranty. Why would you risk it? I wouldn't. Waterproofing, when I started in the industry, it was open a bucket of blue shit and paint it on the wall. I think there's a large portion that still think that it's that. Yeah? It's now become the most critical part of the building. Not by a little bit, by a long way. It's the responsibility of the applicator to carry out and accept the substrate suitability for the act before the application starts. Unfortunately, it's probably the applicator who we see least at these events, or the other training that we provide. Probably because it's not free. Going to get caught out, yeah? Prohibition order. We don't see these here yet. Up in Sydney we do. They stop the building until the problem is rectified. This stop order note, or a prohibition order, was caused by the product that was used in the internal application did not meet the 4858 test data. I can tell you right now, there's report data that's out there that needs to be upgraded. That's all I'm going to say on that. You've got to do your due diligence. You've got to ask for the test reports so that you can verify what's happening. Why would you want to change from a manufacturer if they're supporting you? But if you can't get that support, then you're rolling the dice. It's as simple as that. We're going to look at another video here. Goes for 6 minutes. It's on an internal waterproofing inspection that I did. Yeah, it's quite hard to film videos ad hoc and, you know, speak correctly the whole time. But hopefully what it does is starts to identify to you what you need to start looking at with membranes. Okay, and this is an internal one. And you have a look at that list back in 04, and I did go through this last year because it's still relevant. Workmanship, understanding of material technology, applicator skill and competence, application to a variety of uses, changes in design trends, quality control, including supervision, inspection and testing, maintenance, fixture fittings, and professional attitude. Waterproofing inspection process. So immediately we're looking for a water stop angle at the door threshold, the door extremity to be installed. We have a return angle there which is good on both sides. This angle is required to be flush with the finished floor height. You can see it measures 10 mil. So unless the tile itself is 8 mil plus adhesive, that's going to be too low, so that would not meet compliance. Let's say they've waterproofed over some timber there. Got a high spot on the floor there. I haven't filled the fixings for the sheet flooring. Next thing we look at is the shower design. So we've got a hob that's been installed, which is great. Does have fall back to the shower base, okay, and then we have a step down which is required to be 15 mil. Okay, so they've just achieved that, okay, barely. But they've got there, got a leak control flange that's been installed. I would like to see some bandage transitioning from the screed through to over into the puddle flange or leak control flange. Got a shed on niche here. Got poor detailing of the bandage, and the fillet details are quite poor. They would be inadequate, under 12 mil, which is required by AS3740 depending on the detail bandage you're using, which this looks like deck web and sealant. We've got another hole there, okay. Now here's the key issue. We've got a flip mixer tap which can only be serviced with this particular model if it's removed from the wall. Now the waterproofers have detailed the membrane directly to the mixer, which would mean that the mixer, when it is required to be serviced, would break the membrane, and this would be non-compliant. So we would require an ancillary flange, such as a water bar or a wet wall cuddy, are two options that we could use to allow this mixer to be freely detailed. So we've got pretty inadequate substrate prep. Okay, we do have a reasonably consistent even film thickness. They've gone above and beyond around the room in terms of the waterproofing requirements, but we'll continue on. Yeah, poor substrate prep, got membrane dropping onto the floor here, large spill, and this detail bandage is just inadequate. That would have to be cut in order to install the tiles and damage the membrane. You can see the bandage is not installed appropriately to the wall there. Got a large pool of membrane there again. More inadequate detailing of the bandage, more pooling there. I have detailed to the toilet outlet The vanity, that really should have a collar. That's inadequate. So there should be a collar fixed to that and the membrane fixed to this. Okay. So we can see with the mixer, has to be screwed back into the wall to be serviced. So there's one on the bath there, and then obviously we have one in the shower there. Requires a special collar in order for that to be detailed correctly so it can be serviced for the life of the tap. Then we've got poor detailing of the bandage again here. In the corner there. Okay. No stopping up of the fixings. Okay, we can see that there. We do have a water stop angle around the bath, which is great. Should be 5 mil above the top of the tile. So we're going to achieve that there easily. Okay, for this hop mount insert bath. You can see some detail bandage there. And then we've got, I'd like to see a sealant bead over the top of that just to overflush the membrane. And then we've got some poor detailing there. There's definitely some good, bad and ugly on this install. And then finally, okay, we'll check the arcs, see how they've been cut. So they're 15 mil above finished floor height, which would be good. Now if we have a look at where the fixing heights are, 40 mil or 35 mil, we get a tile, the membrane terminate 25 mil above finished floor height. That fixings, those fixings are too low. I'd like to set them up above 50 mil there. Will it result in a failure? Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, there's some good, bad and ugly on this bathroom. So with that 50 mil, obviously 25 mil above finished floor height, and then when you penetrate the membrane, if it's lower than that, then you're non-compliant. Is it going to fail? Maybe not. But if you get an inspector, would I fail that bathroom on that? It would be a tricky position. But if you get an inspector who doesn't understand membranes properly, they're going to fail you every day of the week. The list, same list, in 3740, 2010. Okay, so 6 years later. Then they've removed it from 2021, but if nothing changes, how are we going to change? I want you to put your hand up, who thinks that list is still relevant today? Hand up. Let's get some action in here, people. We're almost falling asleep. So it's either I'm giving you a horrendous demonstration or that we've got an information overload, and I know 100% it's information overload. Some of the stuff we're telling you, you already know. Some of it you may not know. Future in construction's digital. We're seeing proactivity. I mean, New South Wales is the only thing that we can actually use as a reference point at the moment because there's some activity up there. They're looking to implement it. When I was at trade school as a teacher, I went, geez, how much of this stuff didn't I know? And how do we encompass what we learned, the ambiguity from the codes and standards, and create a holistic learning environment and evidence capturing environment? So we've built a quality assurance software specifically designed to manage quality in construction. And me understanding waterproofing and the complexities of it, I designed the template off the back of waterproofing because it's the hardest one to get right. It relies on the interaction of trades. So there's the difference. Here's the job we tested it on. Direct stick layout. We know that this method's a direct stick tiling system, has a square sheet layout. That's what I rocked up to. No membrane, the cladding's on the building, staggered sheet layout, no balustrade to the structural frame of the balcony. Rip it up, start again. I actually coached them from Sydney through the platform on how to rebuild the balcony. And I redesigned it, and look at the difference. You're never rocking up onto a job site and seeing substrates. If I rocked up as a waterproofer and I saw that, I'd be over the moon. Balustrade fixings fixed to the steel beam at the front, We've got the cladding off, we've got this isolation paper which is going to overlap the membrane to do our water shedding detail as Bayer alluded to. Here's the design, okay? So the builder followed the design. Yes, the OHS requirements around the balcony are not right, but that's what's going on in the industry. We all know it, yeah? No fall up here, graded channel drains around all of the sliding doors. Also one at the front, use James Hardy, spec James Hardy, can't have a sump drain. 0 fall, 1 in 80 fall, which is great. Minimum fall on a balcony every day of the week. You start doing it now, it's 1 in 80. If you're using a sheet membrane and when you get the bottom layer and then we have our sheet lapping over the top, it needs to be 1 in 80 minimum for that water to go under the tiles and over that lap joint. I know because I've done some installs and I was like, I've got ponding water. So they had to rip it up and start again. Multi-stage inspection process. That's why waterproofing is difficult to get right. We don't actually have the physical cost and resource in terms of man, woman power, whatever you want to call it, people power, to go out and conduct all of these inspections, but that's what's required. It starts with design. We've got to ensure the substrate's correctly installed. How's the membrane being installed? Who's going to inspection and acceptance testing? How are we going to protect it? And then we're going to hand it over. So software allows you to capture all the evidence to create a holistic portfolio of evidence. The measure, Albert Einstein, pretty smart bloke. The measure of intelligence is the ability to change. We're seeing a lot come from New South Wales. Okay, I'm not going to read out this whole slide. Higher quality homes and better protections for New South Wales consumers. We forget about the why. The consumer loses, we all lose in one way or another. At the moment, they're losing big time. Thank you.